welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I've read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She's the author of the book Mama, You Don't Heal, no other than Miss June Kraholik. Welcome to Book 101, Miss June, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, my name is June Kraholik. I am obviously the author of Mama You Don't Heal, and I am currently living in a small town in Georgia. And yeah, that's basically a little bit about me.
Yes, indeed. Was the book born from your own experience with loss or inspired by others you've known?
No, it was written off of my loss of my son. I lost my son back in 2012 at the age of 2. And he was two years old, 3 months and 25, 26 days. And I wrote the book for mothers who were going through child loss that kind of didn't fit in the norm of how they kind of want people to heal, I guess you can say.
Miss June Kraholic, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. Why did you choose the title You Don't Heal? What the truth you're hoping to communicate?
Yeah. So back in 2012, I'm the extreme introvert. I wasn't when I lost my son. I wasn't going to be the person that was going to go to therapy, that was going to do group sessions. I wasn't going to be that person. So I wanted to write a book, and I knew I wanted to write a book when I first started on my journey, but I knew I wanted to write a book for mothers, and I wanted to make it raw, and I wanted to make it where someone that's going through the same thing I was, being an introvert, not wanting to go through the norms of what society says, and I wanted to write it and give them real, this is exactly what happened at each time in my journey. And Mama, You Don't Heal, that title came from the fact that I don't believe that you really heal whenever you lose a child. I believe that you learn how to deal with it. And yeah, so that's kind of where the title came from. Was that I don't believe you heal. I think we all learn how to deal with child loss. We don't really actually one day wake up and like, oh, I'm healed and everything's going to be great from now on.
Let's talk about the grief and healing, Miss June. How do you define healing in the context of child loss? Or do you think healing is even possible?
I don't. I, I guess like when people say healing, I think like for me personally, I believe that healing is you're gonna be okay one day and everything's gonna go back to the way your life was before your loss. And for me, I don't think you heal. I think you learn how to deal with it in your own little way. You learn to deal with your triggers, which triggers to me are the things that upset you, the things that kind of get you down in that deep dark place, that I call it, and I call them my demons. And I just believe that you don't really heal. You just have to figure out how to deal with it, and that's what I had to do.
Certainly. Healing is a process, people. What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about grieving mothers?
I think one of the biggest things is that, obviously when you have, child loss or whatever, um, everybody on the outside, they grieve it for that period of time. And then after they grieve it for that period of time, then the funeral comes and then they're gone because they move on with their life. But for a mom, especially a mom, I know mom, so I know how I felt. You don't actually heal, and I think people don't understand that they still carry it with them And one of the biggest things that I did with my journey is I decided that I wasn't, just because he passed away doesn't mean that that was the end, that I was going to keep his legacy alive. And that's what I tell a lot of people, is to keep their legacy alive just so they can um, have them with them every day. But I think people don't understand, with grief, is it's always going to be there. You're going to have those bad days, and you're not going to go back to the way you were. I was under the assumption that once I got over this healing and this grieving, that I was going to go back to the way my life was. And your life never goes back to the way your life was. Your life is never going to be the same. And that's not to say that it won't be happy or anything like that, but you're never the same person you were before that loss. And I think that's the
Miss
biggest.
June, Miss June, let's talk about the personal journey. Can you share a moment or chapter in your journey that was particularly transformative?
Hmm. Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is I was kind of deep in my grief. And I can remember one day sitting on my couch, and I was sitting there with my dog, and I was just thinking, I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life. And for me, I was only 31 years old when I lost my child. And I just kept thinking about, 20, 30, 40, 50 more years. I can't be in this dark place. And that day I made that decision that I was not going to live like that anymore. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I did, because I said, you know what, I'm never going to go back. I'm never going to go back to this day. And I actually made an affirmation that day. And my affirmation was, I've already lived my worst day. Every day after that day is going to be better. And for me, that was it. That was my turning point in my grief, because I was gung ho about, I don't know what to do, but I'm not going to do this. So each day I was big with, because I was such an introvert and was not going to go to therapy and I was not going to go to group sessions, I decided to learn about the mind and how the mind thinks, and I say trick, how you can trick your mind. And I say it like that, but how your mind is just so powerful, I guess you can say. And every day I decided that I was going to learn one thing, one little thing, and I tell women today, take that one step towards moving forward, whether that's getting out of bed, whether that's brushing your hair today, whether that's taking a shower. Because sometimes when you're going through the grieving journey, that's all you got. That's all you can give for that day. But I think the biggest thing was that day that I was sitting on the couch with my dog, I decided I'm not going to live like this anymore. And that was my first step.
Were there moments when you wanted to stop writing because the pain was too heavy?
Hmm. I guess, like, for my book too, like, I started writing my book when I was already 10 years into my loss. So, which was good, because if I would have done it when I first started through my loss, it would have been horrible, because of everything that I went through. But I don't I don't I don't I don't know. Um, I don't know. I kind of got stirred around with that question. What was your question again? I'm sorry. I'm
No
sorry.
worries, you answered correctly, miss. So let's talk about the support and purpose. What does rebuilding life look like after such a profound loss?
I think rebuilding life just basically means that you figure out what is triggering you, which those are those things that give you that emotional roller coaster. And I believe after you figure out your triggers, and after you figure out how to move forward from there, that's where it begins. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Miss Jen, so how can grieving mothers rediscover or redefine their sense of purpose?
I think what they need to do is they need to, number one, after you go through a loss, obviously your purpose as a mom, or at least I think as a mom, is to be that mom. And when your child's not there, I think one of the biggest things that they can do is set a legacy for them and always have them around. And once they have their child still obviously not physically here with you, but they're with you. I guess you could say spiritually if you're a spiritual person. Um, you have them around, and then just try new things. That's what I did. I tried new things, and I did a lot of journaling too. Way back then. I mean, I still journal, but not as much. But that's another thing is like try things. If you want to try something and before you would have been like, you know what, I'm not going to try water skiing because I don't like it, or I'm not going to write a book because I don't know how to do it. Do it anyway. And I think that's where you find your purpose, and you have to put yourself out there even when it doesn't feel comfortable.
Miss June, let's talk about the audience and message of the book itself. Who did you write this book for, and what do you most want them to feel as they turn the pages?
Well, obviously, I wrote it. It's a pink. My book is pink. So obviously, I wrote it for moms who have lost children. But the message I wanted to send in my book is that you're not alone, and that what you're feeling, because I made the book very raw, and like some of the stuff in there, I know people go, ooh, I don't know if I would have said that, but I wanted to put that in there for those moms that feel that way, and those moms that think that they're bad for feeling the way they do. So I wanted it very raw, and I wanted them to know that they're not alone in their thoughts and what they're thinking at the time.
What is the most powerful thing someone has said to you after reading Mama, You Don't Heal?
I think any of them. I mean, I've gotten so many comments on it, but you know, I think someone telling me that it was touching, that it touched them and that they related, and there were so many things inside that book that they felt that they thought they were alone feeling, and it is helping them, because it's kind of, I mean, I guess you could say it's kind of an alternate way. If you don't want to go to therapy, or if you don't want to do group sessions right away, it's a way to try to start healing until you feel comfortable with it.
Have you received letters or stories from readers who resonated deeply with your message?
Yeah, I have a bunch of reviews, and then I've received emails. I'm on all the socials, and I've received it, and they've thanked me, and that's that makes it all worthwhile, because I can remember when I was putting out the book, I was like, man, these people are going to think I'm crazy because of some of the stuff that I put in there. And just knowing that, receiving those letters, receiving those comments, or just those little messages on my socials, it means the world to me, knowing that I've touched them, and that they're going to be okay. Maybe not, they'll never be the same, but they'll be okay.
They will be okay, Miss June. Very well said. Very well said. How can society better support mothers who are navigating this type of loss?
I think anybody in society, when a mom loses a child, it's not what you say, it's not what you do. And I think that's one thing that people don't understand. I can remember when I was going through my loss, and I had the people just coming over, and I don't know what to say, and they would try to say something, and maybe it was off the wall, but I think a lot of moms get, oh well, you can have another child, and you get stuff like that, but it's not what you say, it's just being there. And I can remember when I was going through my journey, the people that was working with at the time, they would come over and just sit with me. And I can remember two other situations where the only thing that was said was, it was Doc. I call him Doc. He was my son's doctor. He asked me if I was okay, and I said no, and that's all he said. And obviously, I was crying. And then the other thing is, I was sitting out on a bench because I didn't want to talk to anybody. And one of my cousins came out and sat on the bench with me, and all he said to me was, um, no parent should ever have to go through this. And then we sat there in silence. Sometimes it's just being there. It's nothing you say or do, it's just being there even if it is just sitting in silence.
Miss June, how did writing this book help you in your own grieving process?
Well, I think I think when you grieve, especially children, you need to think about it. You need to read it. You need to speak it. You need to write it. There's so many different parts to it that I think you have to do everything. So when I was writing the book, it let me put down everything that, because I'm a big mind person. It let me put all those thoughts and all of those, maybe I wouldn't say, it just let me put down all those thoughts into my book and get them out of my head. That's one thing that they try to teach you, is to get your thoughts out of your head, and that's why you journal too, is to get those thoughts out and kind of put it away. And in a way, it was healing for me. And my big thing is, I never wanted Caleb to feel like he was forgotten. And one of the big things with that was, now I have thousands of women that have read my book, and they know Caleb now. They know my son now through his book, through his legacy, as I like to call it.
Miss June, let's talk about the reflection and hope of the book. What role does faith, spirituality, or inner reflection play in your story?
Okay. Well, I believe in a higher power. My higher power is God. Um, But when I was first going through my grief, I was angry. I was angry. Angry. I hated God. I'm not afraid to admit that. And I wondered why. Like, my son was special needs. So we both lived, because I had a complete placental abruption when I had him, and I lost a lot of blood. I lost 3.5 pints of blood, and he wasn't breathing, but we both survived it. And I thought that we survived for us, for to be together. I thought that's why both of us survived. So when he passed away, I was so angry, because I was like, why did you put me through everything we've gone through, and then I don't even get to be with him? So for a long time, I was mad. I was just really, really angry. I wanted nothing to do with it. But as I went along in my journey, I had to realize too, and one of the things that I realized, because I'm believe in God, is that God gave His Son as well. So He kind of, we had something in common, because He knew how it felt to lose a child. And I accepted that, and I understand now that I'm a better person. Um, Not saying that I want my child to die at all, but I know that I'm a better person, and I know it was all part of something bigger. And obviously, I'm living that bigger purpose now, I feel. But yeah, I was very angry for a really long time.
Miss June, how can mothers find meaning in their grief without feeling like they're betraying their child's memory?
Hmm. First, I think every mom can't lock their child away. I know that is one thing that we do, is we try to lock our children away. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to deal with it. That's a way to deal with it, is just not talk about it. But putting their legacy ahead, making that legacy for them, and instead of the bad time, because basically what people do and what everybody does, you remember the last time you saw somebody. So think about the last time you saw somebody with a child loss is going to be the day that they die. So instead of a mom thinking about the last time they saw them, start thinking of all the good memories, the funny times, depending on how long you had your child. But like for me, they said my son would never walk, and he stood up. They said he would never show emotion, and he smiled. He cooed, stuff that they said he couldn't do. We took him to the Bahamas. We did all these special things with him, and those are the things that moms can remember. And it's hard to do. Like I say it, like, oh, you can do it in a minute. It's going to take a while to get like that, but start remembering the good times and not the death, because their legacy is not their death. Their legacy is what happened before that. Everything that everything up to that point. That's what you want their legacy to be about.
What small daily acts help you begin to live again, even in pieces?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
What small daily acts help you begin to live again, even in pieces?
I think that, well, number one, the triggers. I know my triggers. I know when it's going to happen. For the most part, I know when it's going to happen. And then it's just appreciating something a day. And sometimes for me, it's something as simple as just freaking, I woke up this morning, because not everybody, you're never going to have like a good day every single day. And nobody does. And people that say they are, they're lying. But,
Yes.
it's just remembering the good times and then saying my affirmation. If it's a really bad day, I say my affirmation again. I just like, okay, I've already lived my worst day. So today, even though as bad as it is, it's not as bad as that day was. And that's really easy to do when you lose a child because there's no day that's going to be as bad as that day. Even as as your day gets, sometimes it's never going to be that way again.
Let's talk about the looking ahead. Miss Jane, what advice would you give to someone who wants to support a grieving mother but doesn't know how?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, you're going to have to basically just be there for them and be there for them. And sometimes that doesn't mean doing anything for them. It means just sitting there even when they don't feel like it, or calling them and saying, hey, I'm here. Letting them know that they're not alone. um, Obviously getting to understand what, just letting them talk. I guess that's a big thing too, because in the society, it's hard to let people talk because we always want to talk over somebody, or we want to talk and give our own opinions on everything. And sometimes you just have to kind of sit back and just listen. And that's the biggest thing right there too, is just listen. Um, Again, sometimes it's just listening, and then sometimes it's just sitting. You don't have to have all the answers.
Just listen,
Yeah.
people. Listening is number one ingredient. Miss June, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to one of my audiobooks, people. Book 101 Review Volume 3 is on Audible. Suggestions. Book 101 Review Volume 2 selected. And Book 101 Review Volume 1 highly recommended. These are my products of first season on Book 101 Review, available where books are sold. And one of my threads, self help book, Threads of Existence, Weaving the Tapestry of Life, Stand Tall, Stand Together, Breaking the Chains of Bullying, and Life is Too Short, a journey of discovery, fulfillment, and joy. And my climate change book, Earth Fever, Unraveling Climate and Our Race to Restore Balance. They are one of the best sellers on Audible, so please listen to them. And Miss June, to wrap up our discussion, do you plan to write more about grief, motherhood, or healing in the future?
Yeah. So where I'm crossing my fingers, June 11th, I will have my next book out. It's going to be titled The Serenity Dreamer, and it's going to kind of play off of the, mama you don't heal, but it's for people that are suffering from trauma, and obviously my mamas that are struggling with loss. And it's about moving forward and finding purpose and finding exactly what you're meant to be after your child loss. And we kind of dive into like personalities and your grief, and personalities and traumas, and how to move forward, and how to get that, what I call the serenity dream, that dream that you have, that you want to reach, that no one ever reaches for. So that's what my next book will be out.
Looking forward for that, Miss June. And Miss June Kraholik, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. And can you please invite our listeners to support Mama You Don't Heal and, of course, your upcoming book?
Yeah.
Where they gonna where they can buy your book, Miss
Yeah.
June?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mama You Don't Heal is the easiest places on Amazon, but you can find it Target, Walmart, Barnes and Noble, and several other places.
Yes, people, and your upcoming book, please do invite them to support
I
it.
will. I will. It'll be at first it'll be published on Amazon, and then the other stores will follow. Usually it's Barnes and Noble, and then Target, Walmart. So you'll be able to pick up a copy.
Yes, people, let's support Miss June Kraholik because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Miss June, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.